After lunch, we are ready to start the session. We got delayed because we were trying to connect the systems of Mr. Sharma. Mr. Niti, you can hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
So this session, after the program, we are going to discuss about the performance and shutdown monitoring aspects of the thermal power plants. And for this session, we will have Mr. Niti Srinivas, General Manager from Tata Consulting, Mr. Santosh Kumar Dubey, GM Planning from Hindustan Power, and Mr. Vinod Sharma, Senior President Technical from JP Group. I will request Niti sir you to start by the time I bring Mr. Santosh Dubey and Vinod Sharma the stage.
Yeah. Now my session is starting. Okay.
Yeah, it is getting on. Now it is visible. You can full screen it.
Yeah. Okay. Then let me start. Good afternoon to everybody. This is basically a knowledge sharing session, I would call. So let's now get started. We know we are the present pandemic, COVID-19 has given a new dimension to the existing O&M and performance monitoring practices of almost not only the power plant, to the entire industry as such. Okay. Let us see. Basically, because now we are getting slowly into the phase where we cannot live without electricity, as you all know. And moreover, in the present scenario, in the Indian scenario, we have almost 3.74 gigawatts of power installed capacity, and out of which almost 60%, almost 2.2 gigawatts of power is from, I won't say 2 lakh gigawatts, is from 2 lakh megawatts is from thermal. I think there is a small mistake I made, 3.74 lakh megawatts, and is the total installed capacity, and total out of which 2 lakh megawatts is from thermal power. Okay, so that means we are totally the dependency of our power generation is basically on thermal as such. Slowly we are now phasing out and coming into the renewable energy sector. Okay, there's a new challenge again, but it's the transition is going on, and we don't know when we will achieve the target of 220 gigawatts of solar. But again, that's going to throw another challenge as such into the existing thermal power plants. Okay, and we also know the power generation is very much essential during the peak hours, that is morning 6 to 8 and evening 6 to 9. So the challenges because of that on the thermal power plants, which are running on the grid-based or captive-based, both are equally essential. So now let us see the general challenges. We all know of late the many challenges have grown up to run the power plants as of now. Some of the things what I am sharing is stringent grid disciplines and grid codes. The grid has the national grid discipline has become more and more stringent, and we need to have more discipline on that. And as such, we are having very tight generation schedules, and moreover, after we are seeing a lot of inclement, harsh weather conditions, a lot of rains, windstorms, and sandstorms, and high humid conditions, and high temperature conditions. All these things the power plants have to face. We all know that. And also, we are getting into as the technology is growing and improving a lot, we are also facing a problem of obsolescence in the spare parts and the equipment systems, plants and systems. And adding to that, we have more stringent rules, controls put on by the Pollution Control Board. And of late, safety can never be taken a second seat. It has to be in the forefront. We have to have very stringent safety norms. And of late, we are going to get probably, or we are also facing scarcity of water, fuel, consumables, and critical spares. And if you say the critical spares, now we have got another new challenge. Now we have to, the government of India decided not to buy any spares parts from the neighboring country. So we have to be we are now having another challenge of running the power plants from the which are constructed through the technology taken from the other neighboring country. Okay, now another challenge is now of late as the private power plants are now coming up and already established in a lot of places, and the outsourcing of O&M. The O&M and contracting in India, as such, I have seen in my experience, is that the clear-cut definition and the scope of work, boundary limits, all those things are not clearly defined in our contractual terms. That are not taken much of the attention at the beginning while placing a contract. This one is leading to many of the other, once the contract is awarded and the O&M and the starts, then a lot of other issues are coming because the scope and the battery limits are not properly fixed. These are all new challenges which are throwing problems to the efficient operation and monitoring of the power plants. Okay, and we also now coming because of the renewable energy proliferation into the power grid, fluctuating thermal power demand due to RE. And we all know that the solar energy is available only in the daytime. And as the solar energy component is increasing day by day, so the later part of the day, which is dark part of the day, we are again depending on some reliable energy. So which has to come from again either thermal, mostly the thermal. So running a power plant during these off-peak hours or during the dark hours of the day is going to become another challenge. Okay, now coming to the other scenario is the scarcity of special tools and highly skilled manpower. Okay, so this can be managed. Okay, this is a manageable challenge, but this is a challenge as such. Let's come to the other slide. Most of us know the major thermal power plant issues. Machines have developed heavy abrasions, expansions, and we have the steam, water, oil, and gas leaks. And we have other parameters like abnormal pressures, temperatures, levels, and emissions. We have electrical faults, instrument failures, and the last one, of course, which cannot be avoided. This is always present, a human error, because we are all humans. So these are the issues which everybody in any not only in the power plant, any industry will have this kind of errors. And we have seen a lot of accidents happening. The last one being the Srisailam, the idle power plant, which has, of course, we had loss of 9 people there because of the flashover happened. And the other things like we are seeing in Visakhapatnam, LG Polymers gas leak. It was a polystyrene gas leak into the atmosphere and killing and damaging the atmosphere and the people and causing the loss of life. So these are accidents, and these are the common phenomena. We say any power plant, and majorly thermal power plant will also have these kind of issues. So these are the main things which can cause the power plant major shutdowns or non-efficiency of the running power plants or non-economical operation of the power plants. So these are the issues. And now coming to the major causes. So we know the issues, what the effects. Now coming to the causes are like equipment failure due to aging. Every equipment has a life, and after life is over, it has to be either replaced or refurbished, or it is to be replaced. Okay, and few things which come always in any power plant or an industry is the design and erection deficiencies. So I have been into the erection commissioning part as well in my career. So I have seen how a design issue and the erection deficiency, the mistakes done during erection commissioning will also create some problems. Some of them can be corrected, or some of them will become permanent in nature. So those things probably the young generation or who are into this field already should take care that the design has to be properly seen, or it will lead to a permanent deformation or permanent loss of performance in the power plant. So these are the issues during design and erection commissioning phase people may face, because these are the causes which may cause heavy damage to the economic operation of the power plant, and if you don't get the proper output, you don't get proper PLF, have frequent shutdowns, trippings, unforeseen trippings, all those things will happen. Other things is somewhat human in nature, that is preventive maintenance schedule not followed. These are the things which again a challenge, because we have to run the plant continuously, and sometimes we may not get a chance to do some of the preventive maintenance activities on some of the machines, which is again you can say calculated risk people have to take, because people who are experienced, who well know, who are very much familiar with the equipment which they are running, they will know whether the PM is required or can be postponed for a few days, how many days can be postponed. All those things people need to take a calculated risk. But this is again risk factor involved, and something is not followed, and machines, of course, machines, they have their own way of working. They don't see anything, they cannot listen to us. They will perform as they want, and which is to be properly taken care, and that is the PM schedule. Sometimes people don't follow it, and we have accidents happening because of that. And the other point is job safety analysis, standard operating procedures, standard maintenance procedures, and OEM's schedule, and OEM's schedule of maintenance, which is to be followed. So these are the issues. Normally during any job, we have to have a job safety analysis. Every job is to be understood clearly by all the people who are working at the ground level and who are planning for the job and who are doing the maintenance of the job. So at all levels, the job safety analysis is to be thoroughly studied, and it is to be put on paper, to be clearly told to the people who are going to do the job. So this is very essential because otherwise people who don't know about the safety involved in the carrying out some job or maintenance, so they may end up with damaging the equipment, or they may damage or they may injure themselves, which is again a problem. Similarly, we have scheduled operating practices. So this is mainly for the operating people, so they should know how to operate an equipment. They should have thoroughly studied the O&M manuals, and they should take care that when how much load they can put on the machine, what is the right time to start, and what are the alarms, what are the permissives. So regarding all these things, they should be thoroughly trained, and they should have all these SOPs, and they should be reviewing it thoroughly in regular or frequent intervals. Similarly, the maintenance people should have their standard maintenance practices, which are derived based on their experience or given by the OEMs. Sometimes the original equipment manufacturers, they give their own standard maintenance practices, and we need to follow them very strictly so that we are not damaging the equipment. Some of them may be critical, then that gives a huge damage and long shutdowns for repairing or replacement. And the other point is the lack of trained resources. So before putting any person into a job, the supervisor or the concerned engineer should very well assess and know about the caliber of the person who is going to do the job. That is very essential, that otherwise it should not end up that somebody is coming from a third party. He says so many things, I know this. But at the end of the day, when he's actually put on the job, he may say, I don't know. So these are the things by way of doing an interview, by taking his resume, or by way of his face-to-face discussion. Before putting a person into a job, we should understand how much he is capable of doing. And other thing is lack of leadership qualities in a key personnel. So this is one management issue. The leadership qualities, because some of the times when people do the things with their own wholehearted and sincerely, but some things may fail. When something may fail, the leadership comes into the picture. The key personnel should actually take the responsibility of the failure and try to see that these things will not happen, and take proper corrective action and training required for the people not to not to recur these kind of issues. And also motivation towards plant objectives. So there is one major things which drives the people in the O&M. This objective has to be there in the minds of the people throughout the operation, whenever they are working for the plant. The other point is over and under maintenance. This is something which I have seen in a number of cases. Some people will do the shortcuts of not doing it. Under maintenance, that is called under maintenance. They say this is not required, this is not required. To save time, some people may say this is not required, this is not required. This is again not correct. if it's, that's why you should have a step-by-step procedure of the maintenance act. That's why SMP comes into picture. When you say standard maintenance procedures, you should have a step-by-step procedure of removing, replacing, and housekeeping. All those things should be in place. Similarly, over maintenance. This is another major issue which we may feel. People are over enthusiastic. They would like to do the over maintenance. That is also going to create a problem. So maintenance is again a balanced activity. Under maintenance is also a problem. Over maintenance is also a problem. So that means the manager, maintenance, or operation should sit together. Operation, maintenance people just decide on when to do the maintenance as per OEMs or per their scheduled maintenance activity, planned maintenance activities. All those things they have to see and plan the maintenance accordingly. The other point is the safety issue. Majorly, the lack of good housekeeping. So mostly this is where accidents also may happen, and because of not doing good housekeeping. People should be trained properly that a person who is doing the maintenance should also end up with a good housekeeping. So we should give good incentives, encouragement for the people to do the good housekeeping. That will improve the safety. As I can strongly say that a good housekeeping is 50% safety. It brings 50% safety you can achieve through good housekeeping. This is what I have seen in my experience. So that's what I want to share that. And also we should have the lack of equipment history tracking and or CMMS. This is where major thing that a plant is running. It should have, like we used to maintain our own track record of health records. So we know that nowadays everybody is keeping their health records since beginning of their life, from the day they are born, how their immunization schedule is given. All those things people are now keeping. Similarly, for equipment also, should have all the equipment history tracking properly maintained and thoroughly, and should be able to retrieve that history. That gives a very good understanding of the performance of the equipment. Some of the equipment they have, most of them have a can say product life cycle after say 25 years or 10 years, whatever it is. But tracking the equipment history, so that will make the equipment to be used for prolonged or to the best of its capacity and throughout the life of the equipment. Then come to the other part, that is something goes wrong, then we should have a RCA. That is another thing which is again a combined activity of both operation and maintenance, root cause analysis. This is where actually this is also again it's a part of you can say equipment history tracking, but we should have proper RCA on a RCA. Why RCA is required is because it is not to find fault with somebody. Always people will do mistake in doing a proper RCA just to save their skin. It is again not correct. So let the problem be clearly understood, identified, and then be resolved. And we should have a proper corrective mechanism where we can do the analysis, root cause. It can be because of a human failure, maybe because of design failure, or maybe because of manufacturing defect. All these things are possible. So unless we make a thorough RCA, we won't be able to analyze the actual fault and who is responsible for that, so that the corrective action can be taken in time, and we can assure that these things will not recur again. This is a part of again a good leadership qualities of a key personnel is involved. This is a part. Good RCA and leadership qualities in a good key personnel will go side by side. And the part is bypassing protections and interlocks. This is a major issue. I think most of the people know whenever something is tripping or something is not starting, the equipment is not starting, we know why this not start. Somebody will find out this is the problem, some suction pressure is not okay, or the suction valve is not open, or it's open but its feedback is not coming. These things are properly to be understood. Sometimes we need to do this forcing. I too agree that we need to do it with a very high level of agreement, like somebody is not to be done. These things actually should not be done as a single person. If somebody is bypassing something, it should be discussed at a very high level, up to the shift in charge level or maintenance head level, so that this equipment is not starting, so we are going to bypass it. Because I myself During my beginning of my career, I faced a problem when a motorized actuator, which is a steam turbine drain valve, which was not starting, and the control room told me that it is not starting. So then I went to and saw I was alone there. So I went and saw the MCC. The MCC, there was a fuse failure. One of the phase fuse failed. So I didn't have an option. I was alone there. So I just took some wire from there and just put the wire wrapped onto the fuse without replacing it, and without closing the MCC door with a screwdriver, I just switched on the MCC. There was a fault actually at the site. There was one phase of this getting shorted, and I switched on. It was a flashover in front of my eyes, the big flashover. The machine tripped, and also I burnt my hand. Luckily that I didn't lose my eyesight. Initially I could not see anything for a few minutes. I thought I lost my eyesight, but later on I was able to see. But that is a good at the beginning of my career, because we're not much trained about what is safety. Those are the days when safety was not given that much of priority. So that is one thing the bypassing protection interlocks will cause. And come to the next, regular field monitoring and reporting. This is one of the essential part. All the field operators, when they go to the rounds, they should see the equipment with the wholehearted, with eyes, not only eyes open, with their heart. When you see something with your heart, you will see more things. You want to just see with only the eyes, you'll see few things, definitely. But that means a person going into the field should have a full-fledged and full determination that he is going for a job, he is going to the field for monitoring the proper operation of the plant. Something is not working, something is not regular, or something is not in shape, you should immediately report it. You should immediately report it. You should not take the things for granted. That is what is important. This is what the training required for the field operators, that whenever they go to the field, observe so many things, but they should take a piece of paper, write down, or they are allowed to take a snapshots. They can take a snapshot and immediately should report from there itself, directly from the field, or coming back to the control room, and then report it to the respective managers that this is what he has observed. But it is not the responsibility of that. You should see that the problem is also attended, and you should get the feedback from the manager that he has reported so and so, and what is the outcome of that, whether to be attended or to be delayed, or it is okay. So by the way, he is getting educated, as well as he is also able to solve the problem and try to avoid any major damage. The other point is sabotage by disgusted employees and miscreants. This is very rarely happens, but you cannot rule out that we will do these things who are not getting promotions, not getting enough pay increments, or those things, those employments, those category of people will always there in any kind of power plant. So it is up to the superiors to have of course nowadays CCTV cameras are there, so no such things can be easily avoided without any catching that. So people will be caught because of this CCTV footages. And the other part is non-compatible spare replacement. This is spares management is a very good art that people should develop this art. Any spare and replacement of spares, especially when you want to do the cost cutting and you want to do something which is to be imported, you want to make it indigenous. So while replacing the spares, compatibility is to be seen. Otherwise, they are going to land up in problems. Like the hole sizes, they want to replace a gasket, the hole sizes are not matching, the thickness is not matching, and the material is not the right one. All those things may come into picture. So the spares management has to be done very religiously. Otherwise, whatever you have a spare, you think you have a spare, but you want to replace it, it will not fit into the machine. Then you are lost. You are going to do many things. Whatever you have purchased is going to be a waste, and you get all the blames, and your plant also will suffer because of this non-compatible spare. Now let us, we have seen the major causes which can create problems for the smooth operation of any power plant. Now let us have a few case studies, very few case studies, because there can be many. people have their own experience, lot of case studies. But let us see one case study, which is again a design issue. In a power plant, gas turbine power plant, we have got a air inlet filters. The gas turbine requires a huge amount of air, which is to be filtered and taken inside. So these filters, they have to be designed for a different tropical conditions. So the filters which are in a Gulf countries, they are having a lot of sandstorms. There are different types of filters. The filters which have to be used in a coastal atmosphere, they have to be different. The filters which have to be used in a very cold atmosphere, they have to be different. So the design aspect has to be seen while placing at the time of engineering or placing the orders. So this is again say space management, I can say. So this is one thing, and come to the other point. Because of that, actually, what happened in one of the power plant during peak winter time, the people peak winter time, the filter DP is to be going very high, because of which the gas turbine could not receive a sufficient quantity of air, and because of that, the machine has to be shut down during the daytime, during early morning hours. Again, it has to be started after the sun is again hot. So like that, the design issues can crop up. The other thing is, again, the design issue. So proper engineering, because there's a quality matter. This is a point of the second point. If you see gas turbine inlet fixing tripod stands, I have seen that these tripod stands, of course, it was supplied by a very famous, reputed manufacturer, but their sub-vendors, because they also do a lot of outsourcing. Even the biggest manufacturers, they don't manufacture everything in their own plant. They do a lot of outsourcing. When they do the outsourcing, the quality has to be seen properly. If they miss to see the proper quality, that will affect their own main equipment. This is the same thing happened in the Gulf where I worked. The tripod stands which are supposed to used for taking the filters on them, their supports are not properly manufactured, and so because of that, sand ingression was happening inside, and because of that sand ingression into the gas turbine, the turbine blades and the compressor blades were getting fouled, and the machine has to be shut down for frequently for inspection, and it has caused a lot of damage also. This is what one of the can say the engineering issue or quality issue. Not engineering is done properly, but the quality has failed. They didn't try to see the problem, quality of the material supply by the OEM. Coming to the overlooking of OEM maintenance schedules. In one of the power plant, actually, you see, there are OEMs, they prescribe the operating hours, of which above which they say by running so many operating hours, you have to do some inspection or some maintenance. All those things they mention. Those things should not be overlooked, because it's going to create a huge damage. In one of the power plant, they because they want to run the plant, show that they are running the plant, they are able to generate power, high PLF, huge generation, many things. They have a very bad intentions of running the power plant by overlooking at the OEM schedule. This has caused damage to the generator rotor. So normally about 8,000, 9,000 operating hours, or after 8 years of generator up to 200 megawatts and above, generator has to be inspected. You have to pull out the rotor and inspect the stator windings. You have to inspect the rotor. Many tests are done after removing the rotor. So those things have to be seen by the specialists, so that ensure that machinery, everything is inside, because nothing can be seen inside the generator except the small parameters, the temperature and other things like winding temperatures and other vibrations. Those things only be seen, but there can be damages which are very in a preliminary stage. So these things of OEM schedules should not be overlooked. Coming to the small trippings, normally the MCBs are given. If you come to the electrical side, this is called miniaturized circuit breakers. The circuit breakers are given to trip the circuit or the main equipment in case of any faults. When an MCB tripped, that means in overload, because of overload or some other reason, or because of earthing, you should not try to switch on it immediately without knowing the reason. So you should do an initial survey of why the MCB tripped. Normally, it so happens normally that once MCB trips, we normally that when you switch on your AC in the house, because of initially when you sometimes the MCB strip, immediately go on switch on. This is a normal practice in the house. Whenever MCB trips, we again switch on. Of course, it's not correct, but in the house, it doesn't matter. It may cause some damage, but in the case of industry environment, it can cause huge damage. So whenever MCB, this is the training which is to be given to the operators as well as to the technicians, so that normally these are the people who actually will be doing these activities of switching it on again. So these kind of things, these are appears to be very simple, but they are very important. That this is the kind of training people have to be given. And the other thing is, the maintenance miscoordination between mechanical, the C&I and the electrical team. So this is one classical example which I have seen in my own experience, is that one steam turbine drain valve has to be taken for maintenance. Okay, some gasket has to be replaced. So the maintenance has to be done. The C&I part is to be remove the actuator. Once the actuator is removed, mechanical people, they took the maintenance, they replace their own spares or whatever it is inside. Again, C&I has put back the valve and the machine was started. But the mistake happened, and at the time of starting the steam turbine, there was a huge water hammering happened. Then suddenly we were not knowing how valve was operating. We were getting feedback. But while doing the refixing, the mistake was done is that while removing the actuator, the open position of the valve is not properly marked. Open and closed positions of the valves have to be properly marked. If they are not properly marked, then while fixing it back, the mistake can happen. The valve is fixed, the actuator is fixed in reverse direction. Instead of opening the valve, it is closing the valve. And the time when the steam turbine drain has to be opened at the beginning, it was actually command is going from the control room, but the feedback also coming, but the valve is physically internally it is closed. Because of that, water hammering happened. This is one of the things that people have to have, especially during actuator maintenance, and also during actually the motor maintenance. Also, similar things can happen. And the other thing is, breaker racking in, racking out. People also know the few problems come because of not maintaining the breakers properly while racking in, racking out. Because operators will have different kinds of the power from the hands while racking in, racking out. Because everybody have their own wrist power, muscle power. So while racking in, racking out, they apply different kinds of pressure. The breaker has to be properly maintained, and the operator has to be trained properly that it should not give any undue pressure while racking in, racking out. Something is not coming out, you should immediately inform the maintenance man that something is wrong. You should not apply overpressure onto the equipment while racking in, racking out. This can cause a damage which may lead to long shutdowns. And coming to the wiring part, the electrical wiring part. So this is another issue where different voltage levels of cables. Suppose I have an electrical cable 230 volts and we have 24 volt DC. This wiring should never be terminated very near adjacent. This mistake happened in one of my power plant, and because of when there is a moisture, this can be a small carryover of the charge from one terminal to other terminal. Because of that, there used to be a faults. So while doing wiring maintenance, while doing engineering, it should be so seen that after seeing these things, many developments have come. Now separately we are having cabinets, marshalling racks, separately for AC, separately for DC. All those things are happening. But people have to take care of this kind of issues also when they are doing the maintenance. And also, for example, let's say most of the things, the coal-fired power plants, in one elevation, if one gun is proved, then they'll simulate the other guns so that the total elevation is proved. So this kind of things, normally people will do it to save the time, because otherwise they have to shut down and then clean and do all those things. Then say one elevation is okay, the other, both cross-functional elevations are proved sufficient. Then like that people do some simulations, which is again not correct. And also see, and a few power plants, gas-based power plants, if you look at, there are going to be filter DPs. Okay, in a power plant where natural gas is the fuel, the DP of the filters was not properly monitored. That has led to the damage of the gas compressors. So whenever the filter DP is there, So we should have everything into all minds have to go into the filter, that how, that means a maintenance or operation person should always see at an angle that what can go wrong. Any equipment, in how many ways it can fail. Any equipment, in how many ways something can go wrong. All these things we have to have a dialogue between the teams whenever people are having some time. So when you talk about any system, you should talk about the system in such a way that all aspects of that, from A to Z, everything is seen, so that what can go wrong, what may come bad. If this goes bad, what to do? If this goes bad, what happens? All those things discussion have to take place during the operation of the plant, between the operation, amongst any team of operations or maintenance. This kind of study has to take place continuously. That will improve the knowledge, and also improve the efficiency and the reliability of the maintenance team, so that, and also the operation team, so that any undue defects can be easily identified and corrected. And few other case studies. I just if you have only one slide of case studies. That is, for example, we have got for gas flow metering, we have got one kind of flow meter called Coriolis gas flow meter. And normally what they do is, along with the meter, they'll give one bypass line. If at all some problem with the meter is there, or some maintenance is to be done, they'll simply bypass that gas flow meter with a manual bypass. So what happened in one of the cases, by inadvertently or by unknowingly, some person slightly opened that manual bypass valve. Is that what happened? Some of the gas was passing through. Of course, machine did not get any effect, because it was getting the line actual gas what is required. But while metering part, some part of the gas was going through the gas flow meter, and some part of the gas was going through the manual bypass.
Just interrupting, Mr. Niti, we would like to proceed faster.
Yeah. Maybe another 2 slides only. That I'm going to complete. Yeah. So this kind of activities also can cause a problem in gas. So whenever something is wrong, we should identify what somebody has done something on activity. All those things people have to see, because simply should not put the blame on the meter. Meter is gone, meter is damaged, meter is replaced. All those things will come discussions. So without that, first to ascertain if equipment has failed, means they should see the past history, past trends. Then we can understand the actual problem. And also, in one of the power plants during maintenance, the painter was doing the painting, and he was sitting on some pipeline to do the painting, and some obstruction he has got because of the instrument air line. So he put some paint bucket on that, and he's closed the wall. And because of that, instrument air line is closed. The plant is stripped. So all these things can happen, because the means job safety analysis is to be seen by the people who are giving the permits. That's what I want to ensure, ascertain. And similarly, one of the gas compressor, there is a gas cooler fan which is having a vibration. So the mechanical electrical team, they started working on that, and they removed the fan, they removed the bearings, all those, they replaced it back. While starting again, they were seeing the vibration was high and machine was not starting. So finally what happened is that while removing the fan, they didn't take the instrument airman with them. So they disturbed the position of the vibration switch, because of which while starting it is giving a high vibration, and it was not starting. It was understood after a lot of study and mind blogging. So now coming to the another point is welding. Welding is another issue where people have to be very careful, especially during construction time, no problem, but during operation maintenance time, whenever the welding is done, it is to be ensured that the welding rods, the member and the earthing should be very close to each other. Otherwise, it will cause circulating currents, and that will damage the electronic components. So which has happened in one of the power plant, it has damaged the main DCS CPU motherboard. So it's going to be very costly when during a welding jobs. And also, you should have a close monitoring about your switch yards and lines operating 33 kV lines or whatever lines, because these bird nests are going to create problems during this, because unless we monitor them we should have a binoculars to see all those things, because some of the things cannot be seen by bare eye. So we should take the help of the binoculars to see the lines and the supports, there are sometimes these bird nests will have problems. Okay. And also regarding the scheduled changeovers. So in some of the power plants, one of the power plants where I worked, actually the gas compressors, as per OEM, it has to be run 1 month continuously for its perfect efficient operation and performance, for better performance. But because operations, they wanted to change over every week because of their own maintenance philosophy. They have, because it is their boss who decided, but that has created over maintenance on the machine. So like that, we should follow the OEM's instructions while changing over the machines on a periodical basis. That's a change over rota. And come to the operating extremes, for example, in a naphtha-based power plant where naphtha was stored in a tank.
We have 2 more speakers lined up after this. And
yeah, give me 2 minutes.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So now, so like this, there are a few examples which can be quoted. They are basically of different nature, the different cause of that. Now coming to the basic recommendations. Now, having told and discussed about what are the problems, so what I suggest is that the basic recommendation, which I want to suggest to all the people who are doing the maintenance O&M of the power plants. So we have a organizational goals to be clearly understood by all the people up to the bottom level of the staff. So what is our annual goal for this plant for this year? That is to be clearly told in clear terms, where they can understand up to the bottom of the staff. And we have a 5 years operational plan. Rollout plan should be there in all the power plants, so that proper maintenance can be planned and proper spares can be purchased. All those things have to be taken care. So we have a 5 years rolling plan. This is what is important for a long-term planning for the efficient and to achieve high PLFs. Another thing is condition monitoring. This is very important for safe and efficient operation of all the machines. So we have got all the monitoring for different kind of equipment, vibration, temperature, and other things are there. And this is to be properly monitored. Should due care to be given for condition monitoring. So that will give a better performance for thermal power plants. And also the O&M staff to be properly trained on this condition monitoring equipment, how to use these things. Like you are having a temperature monitoring gun, we have a vibration equipment, we have a portable vibration analyzer. These things are to be trained properly with the people, so that condition monitoring is a very, very good tool, so that it will prevent unnecessary shutdowns and long overhauls. And also we should have a very good QA and QC team. So this is one of the important team. Normally QA, QC teams are not given that much importance, but I feel they are also important. Whenever they do any maintenance or operation in these things, QA, QC, quality as assessment has to be there in all the maintenance and operation also. Coming to the procurement, maintenance, special tools. So some of the plants may go for a long shutdown because they don't have special tools. So we should understand what kind of special tools are required or recommended by the OEMs. So we should try to purchase them, or we should have a source where it can be easily located or can be brought to the site. So this is a planning for the maintenance. So maintenance team has to see that these kind of special tools, where they are available, how much time it takes to bring it to the site, all those things they have to plan it properly. And should have a troubleshooting guides should be available to all the O&M staff. Mainly all the OEMs, normally they give the troubleshooting guides, but it is limited to only the equipment part, only the equipment. But when come to the overall scenario of a power plant, in the process, as a process we should have our own standard troubleshooting guidelines for the plant, entire plant. So something, if one system is not starting, it not be a problem with the equipment, something else may be there. So in a overall scenario, it has to be seen. So we should have a troubleshooting guidelines, operating checklists to be there for the O&M staff. Next is the other is a safety aspect. Have a good access permits, good lockout tagout system. The permit system has to be properly in place, and should have the tags for the permanently closed valves, permanently open valves, and should have maintain the register, so that safety issues will not crop up, and there is not cause any damage to the plant equipment and long or unnecessary shutdowns. Come to the other point is have all the O&M manuals accessible to all the staff. Is very important. You should not hide. The information should be available to all the O&M staff regarding all the equipment. There should not be any conditions to anybody. Whoever wants to access the information should be able to allow. And the other thing is regular meetings on all the pending defects. You should have a regular meetings on wrong pending and
This is
the last slide. Yeah, I think this is my. I think my slides. I can just people can go through that. They are general only. Most of the things are in general nature, and we should have proper succession planning. What I'm seeing is most of the power plant, they are not having a sufficient required succession plan. Means somebody is going to resign, a department head, a mechanical head, a civil head, or instrument head. Who is going to succeed? Okay, this is succession planning is very important for any power plant for smooth operation. And training is very essential. Training also is very essential. And the other part is mainly we should have a good CMMS, computer-based maintenance management system, so which will ensure that. And we should have a good KPI and KPI system, and we should have internal audit by the cross-functional groups. So and we should have a good data safety, good data safe, where you can keep all your valuable data in a very stored manner. Time and I think with this I'm going to conclude. With this I'm going to conclude, and hope my speech is useful to all youngsters or in the operation maintenance. And thank you very much for the opportunity given.
Thank you, Mr. Nidhi.
Yeah.
I would like to take forward for Mr. Vinod Sharma ji to present his.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody.
You cannot hear anyone. Everybody can hear you. All their microphones and speakers are on.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, you can keep going.
Yeah, very good afternoon, dear all. First of all, I pay my sincere regards and respect to all my seniors who have blessed you in the morning. And I had the privilege of working with them and also sometimes getting guidance from them. So my heartfelt thanks and regards to them. And I also would like to thank Mission Energy Foundation for creating this platform for power sector professionals, for sharing their experience and multiply the knowledge. Dear friends, we all know the unique features of our electricity generation industry. And Mr. Srinivas has covered a lot of things. I will touch upon very key points. Like we all know, this industry is highly regulated. Production and consumption is simultaneous. Most of our sales are done at prefixed price through different mechanisms like say PPA, long-term PPA, MTA, medium-term sales or short-term or through exchanges. So opportunity for maximizing your earning as well as profit lies in very key parameters like ensuring availability of our generating assets, that is the plant, keeping the assets healthy, optimizing the generation cost, intelligent utilization of UI window, whatever it is available to all the generators, and ensuring availability as per the specific contract, the contracts which we are having one-to-one between buyer and so friends, I have organized my discussion about how to implement a plant monitoring system performance oriented. So I personally chair a daily plant planning meeting daily morning at 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. I hold a meeting which is attended by all HODs, and the monitoring agenda would be performance with reference to previous day schedule. That is the first thing, how we have performed as per our commitment, whether we have incurred any losses. Then what is my specific coal consumption, auxiliary power consumption, makeup water consumption, because these are the things which drive the economy of a power plant. Also, raw water consumption, how much raw water we have drawn, because these days, water is also very costly and we are charged on consumptive basis. Then we must monitor the unburnt losses, fly ash losses, bottom ash losses. Then operational deviations, how the plant has been operated with reference to, one could be design, other could be performance guaranteed parameters, and how we are performing. So it would be optimal to monitor our plant on daily basis with reference to performance guarantee parameters, what best have been achieved. Then the heat exchangers, particularly your HP heaters and LP heaters, they are generally a very sore point in most of the power plants, and performance of those heat exchangers must be monitored depending upon the condition prevailing in a power plant. For my plant, I monitor it on weekly basis. Mill fineness is another parameter which adds to our losses, maybe unburnt fly ash losses or bottom ash losses. We do it on fortnightly basis or as and when we feel there is a need to monitor the mill fineness. Then if any auxiliary has tripped in the past 24 hours, we go to a root cause analysis level and try to attend that problem at the basic root. Some of the power plants like ours one is metal temperatures are very sensitive, and in the past post commissioning we have experienced quite a few tube leakages because of metal temperature excursions. So at this plant we have made a daily practice of monitoring how many times the metal temperatures have crossed the threshold limit. In fact, we have lowered it slightly with reference to our design values. I am very happy to report that we are not facing any tube leakage since last 2 years. Another important parameters to meet the schedule for the day after is managing the fuel, how much coal we have received, what is the coal we have consumed, and how much coal we are keeping in stock. Each power station will have its own management parameters and availability of coal, linkage of coal. So each one should have an optimum capacity storage so that you are able to meet our generation cost also, generation commitment also, or as well as not increase very much our working capital requirements. Next very important thing is the consumption of water. So I tend to monitor on daily basis the raw water pumps running hours, which give me a very fair idea, in fact accurate idea for how much water I have drawn from my water sources, and we keep a very strong check on this. Even if there is a 1 hour more in run of raw water pumps, we again go to the root cause why we have run 1 hour more, and that is helping us a lot in keeping the water consumption much below the normatives given by CA, or you can say CRC. Then we come to maintenance issues, like say defects, major defects which has occurred in last 24 hours and which may continue today also or may require attention. So that those things are discussed. Then preventive maintenance schedule of the important auxiliaries which is going to affect the generation schedule for the next day. It is discussed threadbare, and we try to optimize the time so that equipments are available to generate power. Then, as Mr. Srinivas was mentioning, there will always be daily some issues, interdepartmental issues, coordination issues, which requires involvement of senior management. Those issues are taken. And then any exception, daily we have scheduled condition monitoring of certain equipments, and if there is any exception reported out of those condition monitoring, then our aim is not to allow any breakdown to happen, and we try to do an optimal maintenance by converting each probable breakdown into a planned maintenance. That is how we are able to manage our equipment availability and healthiness of the system. These days, environmental parameters are also becoming very stringent, and we do monitor on daily basis our stack emission, NOx, AQMS, and SOx parameters. And if there is any deviation observed, we try to rectify them at the earliest. Though SOx, we are increasing the margins, but we are in the process of installing FGD. For any deviation taking place in any of these parameters are taken for immediate action, and based on the equipment availability and the maintenance plans for tomorrow, we declare the capacity available to our commercial group for bidding of power tomorrow, and we try to achieve whatever we have bid tomorrow. There should not be any deviation. If there is any urgent requirement of spares, we will take care during this meeting also, and any safety observation is also discussed threadbare, and any lapses is brought to the notice of all concerned, and corrective measures are taken immediately. So this is how we try to monitor the plant performance on daily basis and keep the plant operating at a very optimal level. So one part of my presentation is over. I would like to invite any questions if anybody want to ask something. Then I move on to monitor operation and maintenance of a power plant.
We will sure take the questions after the presentation of Mr. Dubey.
Okay.
I think Mr. Dubey lost his connection. We can probably take one or two questions when the time Mr. Dubey comes in.
Okay, welcome.
Buddy from SVJ and Thermal Power Plant. I'll giving the mic to him. Yes, Shanu, you have a question for sir? Shanu, you able to hear us? Shanu Tangchan?
Hello.
Yes, Niti, sir.
Yeah, I think we should not keep the system idle. So
Yes.
I'd like to, because one point of the as the agenda says performance and shutdown monitoring.
Yes.
So few of the things which I would like to throw upon the light is that during any shutdown and maintenance of any equipment or a plant, we used to receive a lot of alarms in the control in the HMI or the operating panel. So what I like to advise is that these alarms should not be ignored. Every alarm coming, especially during maintenance, because when people are doing maintenance, they are doing maintenance on different parts of the equipment, electrical side, mechanical side, C&I or civil side, whatever it is. So during any maintenance, because at the end of the day, during everyday maintenance, the maintenance team and the operation both should sit together and see what are the alarms which have come so far, and what are the alarms which are not getting reset. So these are sometimes some of the alarms which are very important, they are ignored during maintenance of the plant or equipment. So what I suggest is that every alarm should be seen with a proper importance, and even though it may be understood that okay, it comes normally when the machine is shut down or stopped, but you should always correlate to the persisting conditions of the plant, which actually, if it is really genuine, then it is to be ignored, or if it is to be taken care, then it should be brought to the notice of the concerned higher ups or to the maintenance team. So, and it's not a part of both only operation and maintenance, but it is a together joint effort, a team effort by the O&M team, because I have seen some of the alarms which are ignored during a maintenance actually create a lot of problem, and once the machine is going to be restarted. So this is one point which I always advise the youngsters. So normally people will ignore. This is not the correct way, but it is the job of the operator to see each and every alarm, assess the importance, and understood why the alarm is coming. Then it gives a good output from the team, O&M team, so that the unnecessary shutdowns can be avoided. And similarly, the alarm management system and good archiving of the trends. You should have the trends or the alarm management system. Actually, it's called alarm management system. It is a separate subject as such. Alarm management, separate subject. What is the kind of alarm? What should be the color of the alarm? And there are some alarms which are self-resetting. That means no need to reset, they reset by themselves. Some of the alarms which have to be reset by operator, and some of the alarms. So, and what is the color of the alarm? Red, green, yellow, or different kind of alarms. So the alarm management is to be properly, first it is to be properly administered in the design phase or in the planning phase. And then it is to be properly told to the operators. The alarm is coming with this color, with this color, with this color. This means that this is the importance of this color. This is to be properly trained. This is called training. Operator to be trained properly on this alarm management system also. So this is what is important for the operator, that alarms has to be properly seen, understood, and then taken care when the alarm is coming. And for the maintenance, I would like to say that they should maintain proper repo with the OEMs, especially the OEMs. Normally there will be a rupture because OEM normally wants to have all the profit from the clients, and there will be a rift always between the OEMs and the end users or the customers. So this is one area which is very trickish, and then if you don't manage properly with the OEMs, they may not support you during your critical times. So this is what I have seen number of places. In one of the power plant, there was some long pending dues were there, and the client was not paying them the dues. And when during O&M, when the problem came, the OEM said, we cannot help you. And that is the time when you won't be able to repay all the dues over time, because that requires a lot of financial approvals. So these are the things which running of the plant has a lot of issues. One is internally how the plant is to be seen, monitored, maintained properly. Other thing is external world. The external world which is also positive, so that it may affect your performance if you are not seeing this external world in a total scenario. So you should have also not only also the service providers and the spares. The maintenance team has to take care that any spare required over a phone call should reach site overnight or within 1 day. So this kind of rapport the maintenance team has to maintain with the vendors, so that the vendor is properly managed. He'll help you a lot in providing you a critical, or the spare may be very simple. It may be a nut, bolt, washer, or gasket, but if it's not available in time, then your plant may suffer a long shutdown. So we should have a rapport not only with the vendors, but not with the neighboring industries. Should have good maintenance with the neighboring industry, so that you will be able to. I think Mr. S.K. Dubey has come online. I think I'll just discontinue now.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Dubey, you can go ahead. We lost you.
Yeah. Sorry for interruption due to internet connectivity at my end. Okay, so quickly, I would run to the presentation. I basically special thanks to the all distinguished guests available, and to Miss Energy to organize such a beautiful event during this pandemic as well. So it's really an innovative and a novel thought. So I'll share the presentation now. Yeah. So the content of this presentation talks majorly about the strategic monitoring initiatives which we have taken at our station, which has led to improvement in heat rate and APC. So the first among the measure actual measuring the aux power consumption on station basis. We have used our in-house developed a Markov decision making based and a multivariate regression analysis based a model which considers the plant load factor, specific coal consumption, PA header pressure, mill's average feed rate, historical moisture, ambient temperature, and O2 at APH inlet as a dependent variable to forecast the expected APC on a drive basis, considering the last historical 365 days of data. So we have come to understand that the sum square of errors, which is broadly nothing but the accuracy. So accuracy of the model that we have achieved is 99.52%. So I'll just take you to the snapshot of the results that we have received. These are the coefficients. If we talk of a regression-based model, the expected APC can be thought of some dependent, can be dependent on some independent variables, like we talked PLF, specific coal consumption, header pressure, mill's average feed rate, and all. So based on this table, if you can see, the APC can be derived by this formula on a regular basis. Similarly, the drive-wise ID fan, FD fan, PF fan, and all the pump circuits, this can be calculated. And based on this, we can get a sheet which tells us about each and every drive, that what was the actual consumption for the day and what should have been if we consider the artificial intelligence based model's outcome, which is displayed as expected APC. So this way, on a historical basis, if we keep on correcting our O&M practices, the expected automatically keeps on, improving by considering the recent 365 days of data. And if I'm doing better than my previous historical data, my actual consumption comes lesser than expected. And if I'm on the other way around, it will, there will be a deviation, positive deviation, which tells that my yesterday's performance was not as better as my historical performance was. So this way, we have been able to, yield a benefit of almost 0.15 to 0.2% of APC we have been able to reduce on a similar PLF. We have also taken some real-time monitoring initiatives which partially and wholly uses some multivariate regression analysis or artificial intelligence. So first is the economic order dispatch based on heat rate between the two units. Second is a unit performance overview. We monitor on a real-time basis, and it flags any deviation in a real time to the operator, advising him with the heuristics to control the parameter and preventing the loss. The condenser performance, it's a usual practice. Many stations do it. We provide a breakup of the loss of back pressure into 4 categories. The screen will come and we'll discuss in detail. Then we have a real-time mill operating window, advising the operator that I'm not running the mill in an optimized way, thus losing the potential for APC. We dynamically monitor deviation as compared to the HBD, and since our HBDs were given only for 5 load conditions starting from 40% to 100%, so we have again used data science to generate a intermediate value for rest of the load conditions to derive all the 4 parameters mentioned in HBD. And we have a daily basis, on a day basis, metal temperature excursion monitoring. This is what is a real-time performance monitoring of all the units, wherein the variable cost of the coal is also displayed to the operator so that he is sensitized about loading the units according to the heat rates that he is achieving in real time. and it flags, if you see on the left screen, left bottom screen, you can find the condenser vacuum is divided into 4 categories, and all the important parameters are at a tip of the operator. If we see the top right corner, the mills which are having some deviation, like any cold damper is open, or mills with high outlet temperature leading to excess PA flow, and hence resulting into secondary combustion and delayed combustion, again resulting into exit flue gas losses or increased spray losses. Those are displayed in a real-time basis with a color changing dynamics, so that operator is in a real-time basis is warned and he can take a control action there. Next comes a merit order dispatch. Actually, this takes into account the fuel cost of the coal for last historical 365 days at different load conditions. And based on the average GCV that we have received, there are variables which can be used to arrive at a coal cost in terms of rupees per unit. And based on that, I can generate an input to output curve wherein on the y-axis it's cost in rupees per hour, and on the x-axis it is total load on the unit. So if we see the unit, if I talk of economic order dispatch of the unit which is having a lesser cost, incremental cost of generation for another unit to be generated, that should be loaded first. And to a point, it should be loaded until its incremental cost of generation equals to the incremental cost of generation of other unit. So if you see this graph, on the y-axis, it is incremental cost, and on the x-axis is the load on the unit. So the unit 1, which is having a lesser incremental cost, has to be loaded till the time it reaches the incremental cost of another unit. Since we have only 2 units, so it may not be of much use, but it can be of a significant use to other units which are having other plants which are having more than 2 units, like 3 or 4 unit station. So the operator interface is now displayed here, wherein my operator can go to a 96 block sheet, and he can paste the real-time schedule generation into it, and the model gives him the most optimized load condition for both the units, dividing it as per its and generation. It's a time constraint that we are not able to discuss much in detail, but definitely I hope that Miss Energy will be able to share the presentations later to the participants, and queries can be discussed individually on an offline basis. So this sheet comes as a condenser performance monitoring on real-time basis. This helps the operator. If we see at the bottom portion of it, it gives the breakup of vacuum loss due to 4 major categories. So giving a real-time feedback to the operator to pitch in and run the pumps accordingly, run or stop the pumps or fans accordingly. Next, we have developed an in-house model for mill operating window, wherein this does not play much role when there is a part load operation. When part load means when I am forced to run less than 50% numbers of mills, then this becomes ineffective. But whenever I am beyond a 4 mill operation mode, this can help by giving an advisory that we can optimize the mill's power consumption and save on the primary air fan consumption. So the boundaries, if I talk in detail, the boundaries thus found are the fallout limit and the erosion limit on the vertical side, horizontal side, and on the vertical side, it's the minimum and maximum PA to coal ratio. So that way we get a boundary of operating window for mills to be operated, and it gives a fair enough right idea to the operator that whether he is underutilizing any mill or not. We also monitor a real-time deviation based on actual conditions vis-a-vis to the parameters as mentioned in HBD. So, like I talked, that intermediate parameters are derived from using data science, and the parameters which are deviating from the design, they are displayed red with an alarm to the operator, so he can pitch in and take a corrective action. There are some projects that are under implementation or we are planning to implement. One is we have found that there are some performance sensitive control loops which during ramp up and ramp down conditions due to solar peaks, we face that they become less efficient. To quote the major ones, these are superheat and reheat spray and feed water temperature at eco inlet due to deviation in DC of the HP heaters and LP heaters. So we are planning to replace these conventional controllers with advanced process controllers, which can be reliably working till 35% of the load condition. We also plan to use Internet of Things for using safety management during AOH and shutdowns to monitor exact number of people who have entered inside the furnace or any confined space, so that they don't enter into means whenever they find themselves inactive, it will alarm the supervisor who is outside and can pitch in at just means without wasting any time. Third, we are in the process of making departmental dashboards which will display all the key deliverables of a particular department, which in turn will be derived from independent individuals. And the last does not require any introduction. It's a reliability-centered maintenance, which is of great significance, as the speakers before me, they have talked on it. So this is how my presentation ends here. I believe due to constraint of time, it was a little faster. I went quite fast, it seems.
I know you went pretty fast than expected. You covered up the time also. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I once again thank Mission Energy to give us an opportunity to share our achievements and knowledge that we have.
Thanks. It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. I would now take this opportunity to move on to the next session. Before we move on to the next session, we will take a break for about 15-20 minutes. Before taking the break, Mr. Sachdeva has put an important aspect in the WhatsApp group about a meeting today happening from the Coal Ministry on coal gasification. I would like to give the importance to this subject, coal gasification, because the dream of our nation is to gasify 100 million tons of coal by 2030. And I would like to share a small video of Honorable Prime Minister shared a few days back. Give me a minute.
रोजगार मिलेगा, एक प्रकार से गरीबों की सेवा का काम कोयले से भी हो सकता है, इसका विश्वास पैदा होगा। यानी हर सेक्टर पर एक पॉजिटिव असर देखने को मिलेगा, और मैं जो फील कर रहा हूं, इसके कारण हमारे देश के गरीब इलाकों के और गरीब लोगों के सबसे ज्यादा आशीर्वाद हम सबको मिलने वाले हैं। साथियों, कोल रिफॉर्म्स करते समय इस बात का भी ध्यान रखा गया है कि एनवायरनमेंट की रक्षा का भारत का कमिटमेंट कहीं से भी कमजोर न पड़े। कोल से गैस बनाने के लिए अब बेहतर और आधुनिक टेक्नोलॉजी का हम प्रयोग करना चाहेंगे और टेक्नोलॉजी आ पाएगी। कोल गैसिफिकेशन जैसे कदमों से एनवायरनमेंट की भी रक्षा होगी। कोयले से बनने वाली गैस का उपयोग ट्रांसपोर्ट और कुकिंग के लिए हो पाएगा। यूरिया और स्टील मैन्युफैक्चरिंग से जुड़े उद्योगों को प्रमोट करेगा। हमने लक्ष्य रखा है कि साल 2030 तक, 2030 तक, यानी कि इस दशक में करीब 100 मिलियन टन कोल को गैसीफाई किया जाए। मुझे बताया गया है कि इसके लिए 4 प्रोजेक्ट्स की पहचान हो चुकी है और इन पर करीब करीब 20,000 करोड़ रुपए इन्वेस्ट किए जाएंगे।
This was one of the subjects which we have been focusing from last 12 years, and there is a dream come true now that we have projects running in. And on this subject, I have another meeting lined up at the same time today around 4 o'clock. So I will just take a break now, join that meeting, and start this meeting again. I believe this is an important area to talk about clean coal technologies and generating clean energy for our country. My vision is with the mission of Honorable PM. Thank you so much.